We are going.
Hello. We are going. We are going.
Hi, welcome back to Dream Meeting. It's been a while. Let's see if we remember how to do this. My
Hopefully you
name
didn't think we were dead and hopefully you missed us.
my name is Morris. The other fellow is Bryan. Each week we tell each other stories and drag you along for the ride. We had to take a bit of a break, which I'll explain in a moment after Bryan tells you how to get in touch with us. Bryan, how can the good folks get in touch with us?
Well, the main way, the best way, go check out dreamidiots.com. The whole back catalog is there going back to whenever we started this thing, January of 1840. And so merch there, the whole back catalog. So go check all that out. We're on every single platform out there. So if you can give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever. And we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, sort of minimally, but you can check us out there as well. And on the website, if you have any story ideas, curse words of the week, just want to reach out and say, hey, there's a contact us page on the website. You can drop us a line as well. That'd be great.
In 1840, we trudged across the plains to the foothills of the Rockies and said, I wonder how the Broncos are going to do this year. Um, we took some time off for a variety of reasons. The main one was that I had a health concern. I won't get into it, but it did require surgery. And I will just say this: wear a hat, wear sunscreen. That's all
Mm.
I'll say. Things are fine, but I am recovering from a procedure. So um, that is why we've been absent. I've been unable to talk for a while. So basically, that's been a big part of it. So, but here we are back at it. Are we
Yes,
ready,
indeed.
Bryan?
We are ready and happy to be back, and hopefully we're good for the rest of the year, but no promises.
No promises. Bryan, I would like to start, since it's an even episode, episode 158. I will start by telling you about what happened from June 19th to June 22nd of this year. Do you know what happened from June 19th to 22nd
Ju-
of this year here in
June 19th.
Colorado?
No idea.
It was the 52nd annual Telluride Bluegrass Festival here in Colorado. Telluride is a lovely little ski town. It's kind of in a box canyon. Um, it's obviously been going on 52 years, and my wife and I decided to attend this last year, so we got tickets for all 4 days. It's a place where both new and established bluegrass musicians take either the main stage in Town Park or a smaller one in Elks Park, which is just across from the courthouse in Telluride. Concerts range from 45 minutes to almost 2 hours. As each day progresses, the concerts get longer and longer until the headliners take the stage in the evening for the final show. Then things start all over again the next day. In addition to the music, there's vendor tents. I bought a really cool shirt at one of them. There's the official merch tent, plus food and drink from local establishments. I personally developed a rather crippling and debilitating dependence on a vendor's excellent lavender lemonade, which strangely earned me the nickname from them, Scott the Lemonade Guy. My name is not
Yes,
Scott,
right.
but it was great lemonade.
It doesn't
Anyway,
sound good. I gotta say.
oh, it's fantastic, and I've
Okay.
actually started
Lavender?
because my big
Mm.
thing is Arnold Palmer's, and so now I put a dash of lavender syrup into my Arnold Palmer, and it is
Okay.
for a non-drinker is pretty amazing. Anyway, during the concert intermissions, announcements from the stage are given. There's group yoga stretches are offered, as are reminders about the festival's commitment to leaving no trace and using sunscreen, which again I highly recommend. Attendees are referred to as festivarians. Changing with the time, this last summer's festival introduced the Festivarian app. It's got maps on it, guidelines, and of course, daily concert schedules. It's pretty cool. For first timers, I think we did all right. We figured out the tarp requirements. You can bring a tarp. It can be no bigger, I believe, than 5 by 10, and you can put your stuff on the tarp, your chairs and whatnot, and people do not mess with them. It's pretty nice. It's kind of a live and let be, with the understanding that someone can borrow your tarp if you're not there. So you might come up and find strangers on your tarp and say, "Hey, we're back," and they'll kindly get up and move. It's pretty cool. Um, our only big mistake was overdoing it on day one. We stayed from the opening act at 10 in the morning to almost midnight as the headliner that evening. Jason Isbell wrapped things up. We saw 8 performances that day. We paced ourselves better on days 2 to 4, and in total saw 17 different acts spread out over 18 performances. Now, those who can math may have noticed that 17 does not equal 18. This difference owes to the fact that we saw one group of performers twice, once on the main stage and a second time over at Elks Park in town. This group was a quartet consisting of musicians from New Orleans, Nashville, and those two bluegrass destinations, Brooklyn and Providence, Rhode Island. Today's story is about that group and why their performances were so compelling. Before that, however, I'd like to roll back the years and move slightly east. Bryan, let's go back to 1859, October 16th specifically, and
Okay.
visit Harper's Ferry, Virginia. Remember Harper's Ferry, Bryan? And what happened at Harper's Ferry?
No.
Okay. There's a fellow by the
I mean,
name of,
I'm going to kill myself. I feel like I should know, but I don't. I'm
oh, you
drawing a
know
blank.
this, you know this.
Okay, yeah.
A fellow by the name of John Brown, who has perhaps the most plain moniker
Mhm.
in all of American culture. But as any student of history knows, that plain moniker has a hell of a story behind it. I think it's fair to call John Brown the most single-minded white abolitionist of his era. That's not to say there weren't abolitionists before John Brown, because there were, over 200 years worth. A good deal of them were members of the Religious Society of Friends, aka the Quakers. Unlike the Friends, however, John Brown wasn't particularly interested in pacifism. In fact, he's at the opposite end of that spectrum. John Brown had absolutely no qualms about killing pro slavery adherents. He and his sons had already killed five of them in 1856. Now, if John Brown is the plainest of names in history, then the name of the following person is the most unusual. Bryan, have you ever heard of a gentleman named Dangerfield Newby?
No.
Cool fucking name. Dangerfield Newby. Now, he was a freed slave. He had been freed in 1856. W.E.B. Du Bois describes Dangerfield Newby as, quote, a free biracial, that's my term, not his. He used another word that I'm not comfortable using,
Right.
a free biracial man from the neighborhood of Harper's Ferry. He was 30 years of age, tall and well built, with a pleasant face and manner. He had a wife and seven children in slavery some 30 miles south of Harper's Ferry. The wife was about to be sold down south at the time. And of course, when they say sell you down the river, that's a reference to the slave trade. It means
Hmm.
that you would go further into the American South, right? Newby was the spy who gave general information to Brown's raiding party and lived out in the community until the night of the attack. And that is from his 1909 book, W.E.B. Du Bois. There were some 2 dozen men in the raiding party, and Newby was one of the six or so who were African American. He also died sometime in the early hours of October 17th. Some sources indicate he was the first of Brown's raiders to die trying to take the armory at Harper's Ferry. A century later, historian Tony Horowitz would place Newby's age at closer to 40. Like Du Bois, Horowitz points to Newby's involvement being the result of his family's enslavement. He was working as a blacksmith and a canal worker. Newby also raised the slave owner's initial $700 price for his family's freedom. But at the last minute, the slave owner raised the price because he's a dickhead. Newby had done everything asked of him to procure his family's freedom, but he said, no, that's just for your first kid. Now, you might be asking yourself at this point, what does this have to do with the Telluride Bluegrass Festival? And more importantly, the band I talked about, the one that we like so much, we saw them perform twice during the festival. Here it is. They call themselves New Dangerfield in tribute to Dangerfield Newby. The purpose of this group, made up of people of color, according to their website, is to, quote, to liberate the black string band tradition, owing to, quote, a century of forgetfulness and erasure which has led to the diminished public awareness of the contributions of black string music to bluegrass. In
Hmm.
other words, they're here to both perform their music and reclaim portions of history lost to decades of racism. That's my perception of their work, at least. Listening to their music and hearing interspersed commentary from each of our members creates a rich performance space that is artistic, political, and historical. Their collective musical prowess is astonishing. But here's a little something about each of the members of New Dangerfield. First, they all contribute to the vocals. Let's start with guitarist and banjoist Trey Wellington. Um, Heard a lot of banjos that that weekend. A lot of banjos. But Trey Wellington, who grew up in North Carolina, calls Nashville home these days. He's the one who got the group together in the first place. He's won awards from the International Bluegrass Music Association and is the 2024 recipient of the Steve Martin Banjo Award,
Oh, wow.
which I didn't know was a thing. And I've seen I've seen
No,
I've
right.
seen I've seen Steve Martin in concert with the Steep Canyon Rangers, and he is a phenomenal performer.
Right, absolutely.
He's a hell of a banjo player. And don't sleep on Steve Martin. You know, people, oh, isn't that quaint? No, he's the real deal.
He's legit, yeah.
There's actually a video of him, which we saw live, but there's a video of him performing a song that he did on the tour we saw way back when Edie Brickell was the guest vocalist.
Oh wow.
And they cut a couple albums together, and they do this song called Little Pretty One. And it's a murder ballad with a twist at the end. And it is fantastic. You can find it on YouTube. Look it up.
Okay.
Little Pretty One with Steve Martin, Edie Brickell, and the Steep Canyon Rangers. Uh, Banjo and guitarist Kaya Cater was born in Montreal and absorbed music from the Canadian folk scene, Appalachia, and the Caribbean. She's won a Junos Award, which I believe is the equivalent to the Grammys in
Yeah.
Canada,
Mhm.
for the Roots Music Album of the Year. She now calls Brooklyn home. She's a fantastic songwriter. She played two of her original compositions during the sets, and they were amazing. One was Put No Walls Around My Garden, a bluegrass ecology song. Um, Bassist Nelson Williams was born in Baton Rouge, but now makes the music circuits down in New Orleans, which means he's steeped in jazz, blues, Creole, Cajun, and bluegrass traditions. He's played at the Kennedy Center, NPR's Tiny Desk Concerts, and the Grand Ole Opry. And finally, there's fiddler Jake Blunt, and that's spelled Blount, but pronounced Blunt, of Providence, Rhode Island. Like Trey Wellington, he's also a Steve Martin Award winner. He's also picked up international music awards and played Carnegie Hall and the Newport Folk Festival. He's currently matriculating at Brown. Having finished his master's degree, he's now working on his PhD in ethnomusicology.
Wow.
And the late jazz pianist Jerry Williams had that degree. That's one of the things she did. Phenomenal pianist who studied a lot of unusual jazz pianists like Herbie Nichols and her favorite Mary Lou Williams. Now, New Dangerfield has not released an album under the group's name yet. They perform together when and where they can. You can check out some of their music on YouTube, but you can also check out the following websites, which also serve as sources for this piece: newdangerfieldband.com, TreyWellington.com, and that's Trey with an A, TreyWellington.com, KayaKater.com, that's KAIAKATER.com, NelsonWilliamsMusic.com, and JakeBlunt.com. I also read portions of W.E.B. Du Bois's 1909 book, John Brown, a biography that's in the public domain, Tony Horowitz's 2011 book, Midnight Rising, John Brown, and the Raid That Sparked the Civil War from Holton Company of New York. So it is not
Hmm.
what I expected when I went to a bluegrass festival
No, guess not.
to get this history. And they would talk about the various artists, and they would talk about the history of the songs. And I believe they played exclusively songs written by African American
Mm.
bluegrass performers and string band performers. If you ever have a chance to catch any of these musicians in concert, do it. They are phenomenal. Trey Wellington just played here, and we missed him, unfortunately, but well worth your time. Kay Cater, I believe they have all have albums out. I picked up a Kay Cater album at the actual Bluegrass Festival, and just a remarkable example of how history and culture and politics and
Hmm.
art can come together on a stage. And I'll be honest, the big stage is great, but the little stage on Elks Grove is much more intimate. You're
Hmm.
literally sit around a tiny city park, and everybody's sitting on the grass or sitting up, on the stone steps, getting a wonderful performance and a music and a history lesson, which is it was
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's very cool. So we will make sure to put all those URLs in the show notes in this one. So
Yes,
let's be sure to do that so people can
yes,
plan those. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. And that's not to say that the other artists weren't as good, but there was something just absolutely compelling
Yeah, heads
about
and shoulders better.
just hearing just the stories behind the songs, and even the banter about, like, um, I believe it was Blunt said, "This has been great. The most black friendly thing I've seen here is the sheer amount of skin lotion you have available at the front desk for us because we're not used to these high altitudes.
Hmm.
And the bassist was like, "Yeah, tell me about it. I came from New Orleans. I came from below sea level, and here I am, you know, 10,000 feet or
Right, right.
8,000 feet at Telluride." Um, so it was witty, it was informative, it was fun, and it was also very, eye-opening
Uh,
in regards to this idea that bluegrass is more than just a white tradition. It's it does yes, it comes from Scottish music traditions and Irish music traditions, all these things, but there's a huge swath of it is the African American experience.
oh, sure. I mean, we have chatted about this in other contexts as well. I mean, you can Google the African American impact on fill in the blank, and rest assured that pick any topic from history, from culture, from whatever, and you can rest assured that the African American contribution to whatever it is has been suppressed due to all the hateful backwardness in this country. The history of the American West and black cowboys and all that
Yeah.
is phenomenal, and it's tons of really cool, interesting, amazing stories and amazing people that tons of folks don't know about. And it's just absurd and hateful and stupid. And welcome to America.
I did think back to your story on Bessie Coleman, my story on Charles Drew,
Right.
just this history that has been
That's just right.
literally whitewashed.
Right. Ugh.
So, after 6 weeks, Brian, or so, I've missed the curse word of the week. Do we have a curse word of the week?
We do. It's a fast and stupid and simple one. I was in an office the other day and heard this. Someone referred to an appliance in their office as their Doomba.
Doomba,
Uh-huh.
like a Roomba?
It's a Roomba, but they started calling it their Doomba because while I was there, one person got up and was walking around and walking out into an open area, into a hallway slash reception area, and in this office anyway, they joke that the Roomba is always attacking them, and people are tripping over it and falling down over it. It's always underfoot. It's never off vacuuming an empty room. It's always in someone's room, and so it's they've decided it's possessed and trying to kill them, so they call it their Doomba, which I thought was pretty good.
That's good. We call ours, my wife being Australian calls it a Woomba, and it's called Wombat Woomba, is what she calls the one that we've got in our
Okay.
house. Doomba. There's something for all you tech heads out there and all you Luddites.
There you go. All right, you ready?
Yes, I am. What do you got for us?
Story number two. So imagine you have a cabin deep in the pine forests of central Maine. It's summertime.
Okay,
The windows to the cabin are shut. The cupboards are stocked with food. The propane tank is full.
gotcha.
The family who owns it has gone home for the week, certain that their home is secure because it's a cabin in the middle of nowhere. But when they come back, something's wrong. The door is still locked, but inside there are some items missing: peanut butter, frozen hamburgers in the freezer, candy, a propane tank, the sleeping bag. Not just food, sometimes books, batteries, magazines, but not money, not jewelry, nothing sentimental, nothing of traditional value. And whoever was there, did they clean while they were there? It seems neater inside the cabin than when we left it. And this happens again and again for years, for decades. Locals around North Pond and Little North Pond start talking to each other. Some say it's kids from town, kids sneaking out at night just being pills. Others think it's drifters, squatters. There's someone hiding in the woods, and some start telling kind of ghost stories. There's a phantom. There's a spirit.
Yeah,
There's
there's a
there
spirit over in the cabins now, North Little Pond.
there is a stranger. For 27 years, there's a man out there living in the woods alone, in silence, hidden in the trees, less than a mile from where people live and work and laugh and hunt and have their campfires. And this man's name is Christopher Knight. So Christopher Knight is born in 1965, so just a tiny bit older than you and I.
Hmm.
He was the youngest of five boys. He grew up in rural Massachusetts, in a family that was probably a little bit peculiar. Very quiet, kept to themselves. They didn't host barbecues, didn't hang out at the church socials, were not at the school going to their kids' events. Privacy was a way of life, and with Christopher, he definitely had this instinct times 1,000. But he's super smart. He's a very, very bright kid. He's really good with numbers and electronics, but socially, he's awkward. He doesn't find his footing with other kids. He doesn't really have many friends. He's awkward with girls. He's not exactly bullied, but he's just invisible. He's part of the wallpaper, and no one really has, much memory of him. After high school, he goes to technical school, lands a job installing security systems, whatever passed for a security system in in the mid '80s. So just imagine, was it the TRS 80, and then there was it the Omega or the Amiga computer?
Yeah, yeah, the Amiga,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Those were probably his friends. That's probably how he spent all of his time. In 1986, when he's 20 years old, uh, Christopher makes a decision that you can't really explain. He gets in his car, he heads north into Maine, pulls off onto a back road, parks the car, leaves the keys on the dashboard, and walks into the woods and just keeps walking. There's no note, there's no goodbye, there's no declaration. He fucking vanishes. Why? Years later, even he would struggle to explain that. He said, quote, "I can't explain why. I had no plans. I wasn't thinking of anything. I just did it," unquote. He's not running from the law. He's not fleeing death. There's no heartbreak. There's no pregnant girl. There's no trauma. He just felt a deep, wordless urge to just dematerialize. And so he's 20 years old and he vanishes into the woods. So again, he steps into the woods in '86. He has no plan. The problem also for him is that he has no skills. He's not a he's not a survivalist. He has
Hmm.
no maps. He has no stockpile of supplies. He has no experience as a hunter or a fisherman or a farmer. But he does sort of have this weird sort of a Zen vibe about him, and he's just a very diligent, very calm, very patient individual. So after days of wandering, Knight finds a spot near North Pond in central Maine, a small clearing hidden by thick trees and brush. From the trails, you couldn't see it. From the water, you would never know it was even there. It was kind of invisible. Terrain's rough and tumble, very uneven, and his camp sits in sort of a divot in the middle of nowhere. So he sets up a camp in this little space. It's pretty crude at first. A simple tent, which he presumably stole, a tarp. So he has a place to sleep that's reasonably dry, reasonably comfortable. Over time, he builds this camp into a village for one. He layers tarps upon tarps, building basically a roof that would shed water effectively, like shingles do. He raised the tent off the ground, sitting on wooden pallets, so he's drier. He buried supplies in secret stashes in the camp and would camouflage them with branches. And little by little, he starts to transform this campsite into what one police officer would call later on, quote, "the most impressive off-grid camp I've ever seen." But the problem is, he's out there by himself in a pretty stark climate, and he needs supplies. So he starts stealing shit because he has to. At first, it's simple things. He goes in and swipes food from cabins, a few tools, batteries for a radio. Over the years, it became just a regimented system he would go through. He moved only at night, dusk or early morning, slipping silently through trees. He would carry a backpack, and he knew which houses and which locks were the easiest to pry open. He never smashed things. He never vandalized anything. Never broke any glass. Never broke a window. Never stole money or valuables, but he just needed shit to survive. Propane tanks, sleeping bags, food, and then always reading material, books and magazines. He's super diligent and careful, incredibly careful. He wore gloves at all times to hide fingerprints. He would start memorizing the habits of local families. So he knew who came just for weekends, who stayed all summer but would be gone probably the rest of the year. So he knew which cabins were empty and which might have people around. He started studying motion sensors and alarms, finding blind spots to avoid detection. He got so adept at it, he learned how to move slowly enough so as to not trigger heat sensors. So
Oh my God.
just a level of patience that is just stunning. But for people who own these cabins year after year after year, they're starting, some of them anyway, are starting to get pretty fucking pissed. You come back, in the spring, and find your peanut butter gone, or find every single battery in your cabin, D cells, 9 volts, whatever you have, all gone. Or typically, your propane tank is he wouldn't empty the propane tank; he would just take the whole fucking tank. But the strangest part is sometimes the thief would tidy up. They walk in there and things, he'd go through a pantry or go through a closet and take what he wanted, and then put everything else back really, really neatly. So, the mystery starts to deepen year over year, but this is seriously hundreds of burglaries. Uh, you know, all told, but by the time he's done, they estimate it's over 1,000 burglaries.
Holy shit.
But during this time, not a single hunter, not one hiker, not one police officer, no one sees him. And so the locals start referring to him as the Hermit of North Pond. So, what's it like living out there all these years? You and I would last, how long would we last, especially in winter out there? A day? A weekend?
Probably.
Something like that. But this guy just endures. He's out there for 27 years. He never, at any point in time, did he light a campfire because fire means smoke, smoke means discovery. So he
Hmm.
can't risk that. He relies on propane stoves stolen from the cabins, but he has to ration out the propane very, very carefully. When he runs low, he hunkers down. Some winters, he admitted later on, he would barely move for days, just staying still in bed to preserve energy, preserve
Sure.
heat. After after a few years, he learned that he needed 8 tanks of propane to make it through one winter because it's routinely below zero in
Hmm.
Maine up there from December 1st to shit, probably April 1st even. And some years he didn't have 8. But every year he would always, in the fall, he would eat more in the fall to fatten himself up to make the winter easier, easier to get through.
Just like a bear.
Yeah, very much so.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, he let the snow pile up on the camp, the snow actually was, could be effective
It's a good
insulation,
insulator. Yeah.
right? But it
Hmm.
also helped to shield. It just looked like more snow. So his camp was just sort of
That's awesome.
a lump in the
Yeah.
woods. And then, what about the silence? Later on, Knight would say he barely spoke a word for nearly 30 years. 27 years with no conversations, no jokes, no arguments, no nothing. He did at some point about 10 years in pass a hiker uh, who came incredibly close to the camp, and they walked past each other and they both just said hi and kept walking. And that was the only exchange he had during
Holy
his
cow.
entire time out there. Later on, he admitted that saying hi, just that one word, just felt strange on the tongue to say because he hadn't done it in so long.
I, I,
Uh,
I can't imagine. I can't
so,
imagine.
right. So, obviously, the lion's share of his time is just consumed with getting more shit. I mean, how do I mean? I
Hmm.
need to get more meat, more whatever, more fuel, more whatever the heck it is. But his downtime, the other stuff he was always stealing was reading materials. He just read like crazy. He'd read anything he could get his hands on.
See, that's
Novel.
that's how I knew it wasn't a bear breaking in because bears won't take magazines. Too slick for them to hold in their paws. So
Oh,
it had to be
oh,
a person. Yeah.
huh, there you go.
Yeah. I know nature.
So novels, history books, survival guides, any magazines he could get a hold of. He had a pretty good working knowledge of history and what was going on in the world
Hmm.
during this
I'll
whole
bet.
time.
Yeah.
Listened to the radio nonstop because he had experience with technology and was when he's smart. He threw together a radio antenna on a tree so he could listen to the radio. And then basically he just watched. He watched the seasons change. He watched the snow melt. He watched birds migrate. He knew the exact moment when the ice would break on the pond every spring. He knew, within a day or two,
Hmm.
he knew when that was going to happen. First buds of spring, the slow drift of autumn. In warmer weather, he'd he'd hike to a camp nearby, swipe a canoe, paddle along, staying close to the shore, and paddle over to properties he knew he could hit when he was really low on supplies and he needed a lot all at once. He'd paddle across, pull the canoe up, steal a bunch of shit, load up the boat, paddle it back, unload the boat, slip the shit to the camp, and then put the canoe back in the camp where it was, and then cover the canoe with pine needles so no one would realize it had been moved.
Wow.
Right. Just a level of meticulous detail that's like, wow, that's just, that's like the savant autistic sort of behavior. Over time, he became adept at crossing. What do you mean when he's out walking around? He would cross snowy roads walking backwards so as to disguise what direction he was going.
Hmm.
In his own words, he described the entire experience as basically an extended meditation. He said, quote, "I was never lonely. Solitude bestows an increase in something valuable, my perception," unquote. But no mistake, it's not romantic. It's brutal, it's cold, it's hard, and he just toughs it out. So, for decades, the legend of this guy just, continues and continues. Families are swapping stories, but every year, some people are sort of bemused by it. Others are getting increasingly irritated to find propane and food missing and books, vanishing. Over time, technology starts to improve. Heavier locks are put on doors, and then cameras get better and ring
Hmm.
cameras and shit like that. But again, as far as they know, the man has not been seen, so he seems like a ghost. By 2013, frustration with him has reached a peak. And this camp, Pine Tree Camp, which is like a mile from his camp, 2 kilometers. Pine Tree Camp is a summer camp for children and adults with disabilities. Every year, the camp lost food and supplies to him. He loved cereal and would only take packages that hadn't already been opened. So he liked things that were still sealed. He'd break in and take every single battery, regardless of type. And in prepping for winter, he'd also like stockpiling frozen meat because, of course, it's just sitting out in the woods. It's still frozen. It's totally fine. You
Yeah.
can you can you just stack up hamburger. Great, got all the meat you want. Finally, law enforcement decides, okay, we got to step it up. A game warden named Terry Hughes decides he's going to set up some cameras in this camp tied to a motion sensor. April 4th, 2013, just after midnight, the motion sensor goes off, and Hughes and another officer charge in and go into sort of the main building on the property, and there's just this man standing in the kitchen. They find him stuffing food into a backpack. He's not a ghost. He's not a myth. It's just a dude, pale from years and years with no sunlight, with a pretty thick beard, startled and blinking into the flashlight, but he's
Good
completely,
Lord.
completely calm. It's Christopher Knight. So after 27 years of being out there, the Hermit of North Pond has been caught, and this mystery is over. People at first couldn't really believe it. Knight admitted who he was, what he had been doing all these years. He took officers back to the camp, and they were just shocked by it. Shocked by it's just how organized and functional it is. Tarps stretched over the tent, woven together so they shed water. All the empty propane tanks over the years stacked up in neat rows. Bookshelves made out of milk crates just filled with novels and magazines and survival guides, just organized.
Hmm.
Piles and piles of dead batteries, just stacked up. Several different radios he'd gone through over the years, cooking pans, all stolen, but all well organized. Uh, but the man himself, Christopher Knight, seems sort of oddly fragile when he speaks. He's sort of quiet, and I mean his family was always quiet, and now he's just spent 3 decades by himself. So they start asking him questions, but he's very, this is like finding Gollum. This is just someone who's just can't, can't really function. So he's very halting and very reserved, because he, had no conversation in 30 years, but suddenly now he's the center of attention, which is not what he wants.
Well, it's sensory overload. I mean, he's gonna shut
Right,
down, of
right.
course.
So some of the locals were pissed because they, had all this shit broken. Others were fascinated and had sympathy for him, because he had done something that was just completely unthinkable, in the modern world. He never tried to defend himself. He knew what he was doing was wrong. He didn't try to be noble. He said simply, "quote I was doing wrong. I survived by taking from others." But he also admitted that he didn't think he could live any other way. In October of 2013, he pleads guilty to burglary and theft. He's sentenced to 7 months in jail, but he'd already served almost all of that already after his arrest. He's released under some fairly strict conditions. His mother happily is still alive, lives with her for a while, gets to find some work working for his brother doing so. One of his brothers doing something, and has to attend counseling, and is mostly fine. He's mostly fine, surrounded by people, which has got to be just strange as fuck. Uh, but of course, journalists start showing up. There are two or three documentaries on him that have come out over the years. And one journalist in particular, a guy named Michael Finkel, initially wrote an article for GQ, but then spent several years interviewing Knight, and published the book The Stranger in the Woods, which was a New York Times bestseller. Through those pages, Knight, you know, is more sort of realized. He's obviously very, very smart, brutally honest, but awkward and embarrassed by kind of being a criminal, by all this attention. At one point, Finkel asks him, sort of presses him a little bit, and asks him, it's sort of a stupid question, asks him why he doesn't maintain eye contact in conversations. Because after all these hours of talking to
Hmm.
him, apparently he's always off. He's looking off, away from whoever's talking to him. And Knight replied, there's just a lot of information there. Like, well, yeah,
Wow.
there is. He just so take the question in and then look away. But Knight, I mean, he never wanted fame. He declines most interviews to this day. Still lives in the area and avoiding the spotlight. Still likes privacy. I find stories like this to be completely fascinating. This is Christopher McCandless, another Christopher. I just love the fact that when pressed, he says, "quote I can't explain why. I had no plans. I just did it."
That is astonishing.
So Christopher Knight, the
Uh,
Hermit of Northpond.
well, yeah, at least they didn't call him the backwoods Boot Radley. That would have been a little too on the nose.
All right.
But I mean, your entire system of perception has to change,
Right.
right? If you're living like that, I mean, it's just it's I can't imagine. And I'm not a big people person. I like to be alone a lot, but not that
Yeah, me
alone.
too.
Holy
Right.
cow. Um, was he caught wearing a t-shirt that said Thoreau was a poser?
Yeah, he apparently doesn't like the comparisons to Thoreau,
I bet he doesn't.
because Thoreau was, I mean, Thoreau's whole thing. I mean, he was there for 8 days, and his mother walked to him every day and did his laundry or something. I mean, that Thoreau's story has been overblown, um, and compared to this especially. But that wild hair instinct. I mean, isolation is bad for you. I've said that repeatedly in various contexts, and we learned that ad infinitum during COVID, that
Hmm.
that you just can't. That's not really psychologically good for you. But
I wonder how he did with COVID.
well, I
I,
mean,
wa- I,
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that must have been
But he was found pre-COVID, so I mean, how he did,
Right,
right?
right. That's what I'm saying is that
In terms of his like immune system, I don't know. Either much better or much worse.
no, I was thinking more. No, you're right about that. But I was thinking more along the lines of, was it like being in a sensory deprivation tank? Like, oh, finally, if it happened that he didn't have to be around. I mean,
Right.
I like to think I did better than most with COVID. And towards the end, when I was really getting kind of a little batty, I was like, man, is this what people were like on day 2 and 3? Because I couldn't have done that for, you know, as long as we did it. That's
Right.
such a blur.
Hmm.
That's a great story. The Hermit of North Pond, Christopher Knight. And it sounds to me like, I mean, I think about Christopher McCandless all the time,
Hmm.
but, he woefully unprepared. If you've read I know you've read the Krakauer book.
Yeah, saw the movie, read the Krakauer book several times now. There actually is because I'm really interested in these stories. There's another story I'm going to use on the podcast at some point down the road that is, in certain respects, even more similar to Christopher McCandless, a guy who's actually spent some time in San Antonio. He went to high school here, but found himself in Alaska years later. And again, before the internet, before connectivity and being able to find, you can't in the 70s and 80s, early 90s, you can't just be wandering into the woods. You have to have made
Mhm,
very detailed. So and so is picking me up in the afternoon of this date at this location,
mhm.
and you can't. You know, you have to be incredibly clear, and so the McCandless story. For those of you listening, if you don't know it, read that book. And I mean, a lot of that story is just, um, I admire that freewheeling spirit, but he also fucked up. I mean, he just kind of stepped
It's
off
a
a
very
cliff and
frustrating story, and I've read
yeah.
it a couple times. It's very, very frustrating.
Right. So you're gonna wander in the woods with no real exit plan. Kind of, well, maybe that doesn't, maybe this is, ill advised.
And the complete disregard for your family and friends who might be concerned for where you are.
Right.
Just a real asshole move, I think,
Right. Very much
in
so.
many respects. And did his family ever put out a missing like did they ever call the police and said, "Hey, he's."
Yeah. So, did,
So,
search parties, looked for him, found the car, never found him.
wow. Wow.
Because yeah, because before he set up camp, I'm not sure actually where he left the car. I mean, he drove it all the way to Maine, but I think he walked for 4 or 5 days before he started to figure out where he was going to settle down.
Oh,
So
wow.
so
Okay.
so
So he's
it wasn't like the camp was like 300 yards from the car.
mhm.
He hoofed it a long ass way, and just hung out.
Do you think when he was in the cabins, he was like, another goddamn Stephen King book? Jesus. All this cabin has is Stephen King novels and Pepperidge Farm cookies. What the hell?
I need some light reading. Come on, Sweet Valley High, Pretty Boys. None of this heavy, scary shit. I'm living in the dark every night here. This is,
It's all Maine authors and Jesus, lobster rolls and
right.
God
Thank
damn
you.
it. Yeah, it. God. Our plan is Maine is northern Maine is on our list of places to visit soon. So I'm looking forward to doing
It's spooky up there.
that.
Those old forests. I mean Appalachia. I mean, there's not a lot of sunlight getting into those places, depending on where you go. They're pretty, but they're fucking dark.
What was it James Carville said? I come from so far back in the Louisiana woods, you got to pipe the sunshine in. Well,
So
there
there
you
you have
have
it.
it. There are two really interesting stories. I really like that, Bryan. Christopher Knight and New Dangerfield. Check them out. Good stories, good stuff.
Yep.
And
Uh
we will you will hear from us more frequently moving forward
huh.
now that I'm recovering. So be good to each other, folks.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Check out dreamidiots.com. Check out the back catalog. Sorry for the 6 weeks off. We should be good to go for the rest of the year, pending some travel and some other moving pieces. We appreciate you hanging in there with us. So drop us a line, and thanks for your patience. And we're gonna be back again super soon.
Yes, yes.